For years, I sat on the other side of the screen watching influencers share their dreams, share their passions, and teach what they love. But everything really changed for me the moment I stepped on the other side of the camera. Now, if you've ever thought about starting a YouTube channel, or turning your hobby into something more, or just wanted a behind the scenes look at the journey, listen closely. Because I'm about to share everything that I've learned. And here's the crazy part. You don't even need a massive audience. I have less than 2,000 subscribers, I'm not monetized, and I've only been doing this for about a year. But I'm gonna tell you the life change happened really in the first couple months. Now let's break this journey down step by step. Whether you're just thinking about starting, or you're already in the trenches, or maybe you're just looking for some inspiration. These are the 6 moments that changed everything for me, and hopefully they'll help you too. So here's what they are, and this is what we'll be diving into. Starting with chapter 1, that's gonna be my starting point. This is why I started my YouTube, my expectations versus the reality, and what was holding me back. Number 2, we're gonna go into the spark. These are the moments that I knew was gonna be more than just uploading videos, and how I found my niche and what clicked for me at the first signs of. In chapter 3, we're gonna talk about some of my early lessons, the biggest mistakes that I made, what I wish I knew sooner, and what actually moves the needle from when you're starting out to where I am now. 4, we're gonna go talk about the transformation, how creating content changed my mindset, my skills, even my day-to-day life outside of YouTube. For 5, I'm gonna talk about some of my challenges, the hardest parts and the burnout, the doubt, the growth plateaus, and how I really pushed through them all. And then chapter 6 will be the lessons and advice, and the most important takeaways for new creators and what I would do differently if I were to do it all over again. And I'll leave timestamps in the descriptions, but if you jump ahead, please make sure you hit like and subscribe because the YouTube algorithm doesn't like that too much. And if you're ready to turn your passion into something real, or just curious about what happens behind the scenes, grab a seat and let's get into it. Chapter 1, the starting point. So back then I really just loved watches, and I really had no one to really share my passion with. I remember scrolling through forums and really wanting to talk about Timex, and that's not the most popular in a lot of watch spaces. And I felt like no one really cared about what I cared about, whether it be online or definitely my family. And I was really just longing for community. I just felt isolated with this burning passion that I was developing. And this longing for community is what actually led me to finding this, somewhat obscure Facebook group, which was a Timex fan club. And that's where I found my flock. Members like Paul and Blake and Rafa and pages like Heritage 1854 and Vintage Timex, they helped stoke the flame and passion that I was building. And like Proverbs says, as iron sharpens iron, as one person sharpens another, I felt like my love, my passion, my growth really started to take off. And in that community, I went from this isolated state to realizing that I wasn't as weird as I thought. But then I started to have another problem occur. I could talk about watches all day, just like I'm sure you could talk about your passions all day. And then a second problem arose. I could talk about watches all day, but where? I needed a space for stories, not just specs. I needed a place to share this passion. And if you're like me and you have maybe a weird niche or obscure passion, you are also looking for that place, looking for somewhere to share it with. And that's where the spark really started. Chapter 2, the spark. And this is where I really wanted to tell stories, not just specs, about watches and about people behind them. So I actually started with Instagram, started sharing pictures, started sharing captions, and I started to really build up a lot of friends and community along the way. And so no matter what your hobby is, I encourage you, dedicate a separate Instagram page to just that hobby, and you'll be amazed at the type of people that you can attract and the type of people that you'll meet in that passion. And in this journey, I started to get closer to what I was looking for, but it didn't really work out the way I wanted. You see, I wanted to be more into storytelling. That's the reason why my Instagram handle is Timex Tales. And I'd write these long, detailed captions, pouring my passion into every word, only for them to really just get buried in the scroll. And it really wasn't enough. And I had to find a new way to kind of express myself. And one day I had a thought, what if I just said it out loud instead of writing it? And that single thought completely changed it. So chapter 3, let's talk about some of the early lessons. Now, in these lessons, a lot of these you can learn yourself, but I also encourage you to reach out to others. Even before I go into some of my lessons, I got to give a shout out to some of the people that helped me early on. People like Pixie Watches and Timex Vintage, they were a sounding board. They were someone that I could talk to as I was trying to figure it out, both on Instagram and YouTube. And I learned a lot along the way. One of the things for me going into it wasn't about going viral. It was about creating content that I would love to watch myself. And we all start somewhere. And my first video was, it was rough. But I pushed through. Now that first video was about what I care about. It was about watches. In particular, it was about a Timex Marlin. Now we don't have to go into detail about the watch, but let's talk about some of the things that went well and went wrong. What went well was I talked about what I loved. I talked about what I cared about. I wasn't chasing any kind of trends. But what went wrong? A lot of it. My lighting wasn't very good. My camera wasn't very good. I didn't have a script. Probably could have done a better hook. Didn't have a good thumbnail. Yeah, I didn't do a good job about making videos. But at the end of the day, I started. That's what went right. And that's the most important part. Get out there, put yourself out there. You've never seen the video, so you don't know how bad it is. And that's okay. It gave me a starting point to improve on later on. In the Bible, it talks about there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. And that first video was the beginning of my season. I knew that I had found something that was special to me. And while I wasn't good and I wasn't even close to where I wanted to be, I had started the journey. And that was the most important lesson that I can take away. Now we transition into chapter 4, which is really the transformation that happened within me. I realized in this transformation phase of my journey, to accomplish what I wanted, I had to put in the work. I had to set up priorities. I had to figure out what was truly important while still managing everything that was going on in my life. And to do that, I really just had to love the process. So to love the process, I had to figure out ways to make it fun for me and to include the things that are already in love. So I started to include my family in the videos. You'll see probably within my first couple of videos, I started to have my daughter on. I started to talk to my wife about the things that she thought was interesting and good. And while she didn't like my niche, she was supportive enough to help me talk through it and think through what the videos would be and what would make a good idea. I started to talk with other creators. And from that, I really built a new family. I got to connect with people from all over the world who also were on this journey with me. And that made it even more enjoyable, more exciting. People like Sophie, who's out in Europe, or CJ from down under, or Raf in Mexico. All these channels came together to help inspire me, to help me grow, and help hold me accountable. And I think the big change that really helped me know that I was on the right path was getting validation from mentors, from channels that truly just inspired me so much. People like the Urban Gentry, a channel that I had watched for so long, who was truly an OG in the space, commenting on one of my videos meant the world to me. Another page like Chronometer Check, who really, in my niche, is the king of shorts. And so having his validation and him just acknowledging my page and being able to answer some of the questions was a really big deal for me. And then having Max from Watch Crunch individually just reach out to me, having phone conversation, offer me advice on how to do better B-roll or how to do scripting better. All of these things let me know that not only was I doing the right thing, but I was able to connect to the people that I looked up to. And while they still feel very far away, I know that they're much closer than I had originally realized. See, before YouTube, I was just a guy with a watch collection, but now I feel like I'm a part of a global watch community. And this didn't happen because of my subscriber count. This didn't happen because I was monetized. This happened because I did what I love and I showed passion. And I think other people saw that passion as well. And then the real transformation happened. The real change happened is when I focused on not improving for me, but in finding ways to give back more and improving for others, to make content that you guys wanted to see, to give information that was useful. And that's when I could realize that I could use my camera to illuminate others, to illuminate all the great things that God was doing in my life, and to illuminate what I cared about in the passions. It became a tool of excitement that I wanted to use, that I wanted to share, and then I felt guilty when I wasn't in front of the camera. Now, I am far from perfect, like we all are, but I know that I'm on the right road. And I try to remind myself every day, do nothing out of selfish ambition, but in humility, value others above yourself. And I got that from Philippians 2:3-4. I had that posted in my office as a reminder to keep giving back, keep making content that others want to see. And from there, the Lord will do his work. Now we get into chapter 5 and let's talk about some of the challenges, because I've talked about a lot of the high points and the beauty of this journey, but it was definitely not easy. And in this chapter, I want to talk about some of the challenges because I want to be transparent of what I faced, and if you're on this journey, which you've probably faced as well. And I think the hardest one is when you put your heart and soul into a video, you research it for hours, you do all the work, and you feel like you did all the right things, and it completely flops. YouTube tells you it's a 10 out of 10, which is not good. It means that it's the worst performing out of your last 10 videos. Or you realize that some reason it gets very low engagement, or it doesn't have many views. Sometimes it's hard to record again, because you start to question yourself. You start to question your own value, and you say, is it me? Am I not good enough? Is my ideas not strong enough that people care about? And so those moments are tough, but I found myself just saying, hey, you know what? I got to keep going. I got to go on the journey. What went well with this video? What went wrong? Be honest with myself and say, hey, my intro wasn't very good. Hey, the audio quality wasn't good. Like, what's going on there? And trying to figure out, what do I need to do better? And in each video, just trying to get 1% better, one little thing better, and just trying to say, hey, don't let good be the enemy of great, and putting content out there. The other thing I think for me was when I felt like I let others down. Weird enough, if I had a post in which I shared about someone else, or whether it be on Instagram and YouTube and it didn't do well, it always bothered me, especially when I was dealing with brands too, because, I felt like I was letting them down. A brand was willing to take a bet and give me something and it didn't do well. Like, it kind of hurt. But then I had to remind myself, like, this is just a part of the journey. Sometimes things are going to do well and sometimes it's going to take a while. I have one video in particular that I thought I put a lot of work into. In the beginning, it didn't do very well. And it was just a video about how to change your watch battery. I tried to get different angles. I tried to use all the different type of watches I had. And in the beginning, it had very little views. It took 3 or 4 months before it really got even over 100 views. And so I kind of like forgot about it. But then after 6 or 7 months, like, it started to kind of grow. And now that's one of my best performing. And through some of these challenges, from making videos that didn't do well to feeling like maybe my videos and content wasn't good enough, I had a lot of doubt. And like, there was times where I actually considered quitting. When I saw some of these bigger channels, I felt like I would never really make it there. I'd never have access to the type of watches. And who was I to talk about this kind of content? Who was I to be a guy to make a channel who's just primarily a Timex watch collector? And I felt like maybe it wasn't worth it, or maybe people didn't care. And so I really considered just quitting, and just maybe, using this experience and saying, hey, I gave it a try. There was a point where I wondered why I'm even doing this. But then there was one comment that reminded me why I started. And it came from a fellow creator, Trap Vision 3D. He reminded me that people needed to hear my voice from my perspective. I'm not like a lot of the biggest pages in my niche, and I don't have to be. I just have to be me for my audience, and that's enough. The world needs to hear your perspective, from your views, from your experience. And remember that you don't need to be like everyone else, because everyone else is them. Be you. I realized that I don't need the largest community. I think it was Ryan Holiday. He said, the goal is not to be the best rapper, but to be your favorite rapper's favorite rapper. And so when I was able to connect with others and build my own community, that's what helped keep me going. People like Maxina or Skylar Santana or Laura or Albert or Trap Vision or Will or Johnny or Norman and other creators, they are the ones who helped inspire me to keep going. Their comments, their contributions, their back and forth and ideas. I realized, like, I don't need 1 million subscribers. I just need my community. And if I can make content that they enjoy, that they value, like, that's the only thing that's important. And the biggest lesson I learned, and I hope that you take away anything from this video, is I used to think success was about views, but now I know it's more about the connection. Which I guess we should go into chapter 6, the lessons and advice and what worked and what didn't, and what I would say for someone else who's starting out on this journey. When I started, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I just knew I loved watches. I loved storytelling, and I wanted to create something meaningful. But along the way, I've learned a few things that I wish I knew when I started. So number one is just how to start and why you should just start. And like I said, that first video was pretty rough. But when I look back at my first few posts, my first few videos, it's hard not to cringe. My lighting was off, my delivery was stiff, and honestly, I had no idea what I was doing. But here's the thing, I started, and that's what matters. If you're waiting for the perfect camera and the perfect studio and the perfect idea, you're gonna be waiting forever. Just hit record, tell the story, and the polishing will come later. The second thing is how you deal with the naysayers. Not everyone's gonna like what you create, and that's okay. Early on, I kind of let some of that negativity get to me. The people who said my videos were too long or my delivery wasn't polished. And I do stutter sometimes and I mess up words, just like I did in this video. But who cares? I get to make videos about what I care about, which is affordable watches. And I realized if you create videos for everyone, you create for no one. So I just leaned into what I love. I made videos that I would want to watch. And slowly I found my people, the ones who get it and the ones who love watches and the stories behind it. Don't worry about the people who don't watch your videos. And even the people who watch your videos and say something negative, you did something right because you made them click on the video. Keep making your story, keep growing, and that's what's going to be important. Which brings me to the last one, just embracing the journey. This isn't about a viral moment. It's about building something real. And along the way, I've met some incredible people. Watch enthusiasts from all over the world, creators who inspire me, and even brands who reached out. But more than that, I've learned patience, resilience, and the value of just showing up. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the sun. And this is my season of growth. And if you're on this journey too, keep going. Whether it's watches or content creation or anything else, just start. Ignore the doubters, embrace the process, because the lessons you'll learn along the way, they'll be worth it. And if you had told me a year ago that YouTube would change my life, I probably wouldn't have believed you. I didn't start this channel for fame or for money. I started because I had a passion for watches, a love for storytelling, and a desire to connect with people who felt the same way. And now, that passion has turned into something bigger than I ever imagined. But here's the truth. Not every video is going to succeed. Not every idea works. And yet, even with the struggles, even if I never made another video, or if I made 100 more, I wouldn't trade this experience for anything. Because the lessons I've learned, the friendships I've built, the stories that I've been able to tell, they're priceless. There's so much so that I even encourage my wife to start her own channel. So if you're interested in more running and faith-based content, check her out. And while the experience is priceless, so is your time. And so I thank you for spending it with me. And if you're interested in more videos, there should be some on the screen and the ability to subscribe if you want to support the channel. And just like the video or comment if you found something useful for it. But no matter what, I thank you so much for being here this long. And I hope in the days ahead, just know that I am praying for your success. And I hope that you can remember to believe in yourself, believe in God, and just watch the amazing things happen. This is Tyree from Wrist Unwound, and I hope to see you again soon. God bless and peace.